Today we're going to talk about the clutch component of the bike. We're going to be putting a Rekluse clutch into the Yamaha 450. We're working on the power delivery and making the power delivery and the rideability of the bike make it really fun to ride for the rider. I feel that the Rekluse clutch gives the bike that feeling. It actually lets the rider not have to think about the clutch as much and freewheel into the corner and allow the bike to use the power that it's given from the factory and not have it hidden or burned with an old clutch or the standard clutch. So in my mind, the Rekluse is a really good clutch. We've invited Austin here from Rekluse to talk about the clutch a little bit and get more into detail. I'm not the technician, so I'm not going to be able to tell you everything about it. I know what the feeling is, and I know how good it does feel on the track. So I'm going to give it to Austin right now, and he's going to tell you more of the technical side of it.
Absolutely. So to achieve what Larry is looking for, he's going to be throwing in a Core EXP 3.0, which is basically our latest technology. And what that technology allows is an auto clutch performance that allows you to continue to still use the lever, so you can still ride like normal. But in situations, corners, like you were talking about, you actually don't have to use the lever. You can run in a taller gear. You don't have to worry about stalling because the auto clutch has a feature that will keep the bike from stalling, even in a scenario where you're using the rear brake a little heavy, a down rider in front of you, anything like that, emergency situation. Another aspect of the auto clutch system is that it's more linear, it's more correct than even your human hand can be. So you actually don't have to focus on that aspect as much and allow the auto clutch to work for you. But once again, it's still there. The lever's still there to use it like normal. So you want to hit something, bump the RPMs up real quick and use the lever. It's still there. The other aspects too, whoop sections. You can actually come into a whoop section in a gear taller instead of trying to get into it where you might be even trying to upshift going through the whoops. We're coming in slow. You can actually use the auto clutch system, come in that tall gear and just hammer on the gas and let it do the work for you.
Yeah, when we tested it back with a race team before this, our rider actually rode it in Supercross, and the whoop section, actually skip it across the whoops. He was able to blip the throttle, and that would somewhat engage the clutch with the way this whole setup works. And he was able to get across the whoops, step on, step off. So he was able to squirt off the step off a lot quicker and a lot easier. It had a lot of advantages, and that was actually an early stage of this. So, take it back 5 years where we are right now and the development that's gone into this. They've come a long way, and we're really excited to be using this. Now that we've explained a little bit about the Rekluse clutch, now we're going to go down to the shop and put it into the bike. We're going to have Austin here that he's going to actually give the steps that it's going to take to put the clutch into the motorcycle itself.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll show you that you can really do it at home yourself with standard tools. It's nothing to be afraid of, and yeah, we'll go through it with you.
This is a product that you can buy at Chaparral. You can buy it online. You can call in and order it, but you can install it yourself. It's simple, and we're going to show you how. Now we're down in the shop. We're going to install the Rekluse clutch into the Yamaha 450. Austin's here. He's going to be the one that's going to be doing the step-by-step, showing you how to do it. His way, maybe the best way, or maybe right out of the manual. We don't know yet, but we're going to go through it all and see how it goes.
So we're going to go through the install, like Larry said, step by step. We'll start with taking the OEM clutch system out. We'll then go to installing the Rekluse product, and we'll just go through nice and slow, show you how it goes in, make the adjustment at the end, and kind of a couple things to look for. That's basically alone something that you deal with Rekluse itself. Once again, this is stuff you can do in your garage with standard tools. We will show you a couple tricks of the trade, if you will, but let's get after it. Let's get this thing installed. We recommend that you lay the bike down, and the reason we do is so that the clutch is facing you up so you have optimum access to the clutch system. Also, you don't have to take the oil out. You don't have to drain the oil in this case. Actually work on the clutch, take the clutch cover off. We're not going to lose any oil. Also, when we're going to put the parts in, everything falls right down towards the motor. We don't have any of the vertical, possibly gravity, getting in the way of what we're trying to accomplish. First things first, to get to the clutch cover, we're going to need to move the brake pedal. So on the Yamaha, we got a pin back here. We're going to pull the pin on the brake pedal, just like that. Set this aside. We're going to reuse that. We're going to remove the brake pedal itself. And this is going to vary on your bikes. This Yamaha, we can remove the brake pedal. Some of them, you can put a screwdriver or some other tool to hold the brake pedal out of the way. We'll just flip it up, grab the spring. And we'll put it out of the way, just like that. It can hang there, it's not going to get in our way. Next thing, we're going to have to go and we're going to move the clutch cover, gain access to the clutch. We'll go ahead and remove these bolts, and then we'll go ahead and remove the clutch cover itself. One thing to notice on a lot of our clutch kits, we're going to reuse this O-ring on the clutch cover, so make sure you set it off to the side and then we'll pull it out of this OEM cover. Next piece is, so now we have access to the clutch system. We're going to remove the pressure plate bolts right here, these 6 bolts, and then that'll actually open the clutch system and we'll be able to pull the clutch pack out. Now on this step, it helps for the bike to be in gear. So what we'll do is we'll go down here and reach, kick the bike into gear, and what will happen is the clutch will spin a lot of times, and it's not doing it right now. It'll actually spin until it locks, and then that way it makes it nice and easy for you to remove your bolts from the pressure plate. We'll go ahead and set these aside. We will not be reusing these with the Rekluse clutch system. Now with the pressure plate bolts and springs removed, we have access to take this pressure plate off. So we'll grab it by this top friction plate, just hold some pressure, and we'll pull it off of the clutch pack. Now with that removed, we still have the rest of the clutch pack in place. We have access now to the throw out and to the center clutch nut. So I'm going to set this pressure plate to the side. And we will remove the throw out here on top. Now be wary, the Yamaha is one of the bikes that has a ball bearing in here. As long as the bike's laying on side, it's not going to go anywhere, but it is right here on the end of the main shaft, so just leave it in place. Now we're going to remove the center clutch nut. This can be done with either an impact gun, air. If you're in the shop and you don't have either, you can actually use a breaker bar. You might need to grab a buddy, hold the rear brake, and then you would take a breaker bar, put it on the center clutch nut, and you would pull this way. Since we have the impact gun, we're just going to go ahead and rattle this off, 30 millimeter, just like that. Go ahead and remove this nut. There's also a spring washer on the Yamaha behind that. I do want to bring out a point, on a lot of bikes they'll use a lock tab washer. You would need to bend the tabs down on that lock tab washer, usually using a punch and a hammer, just to get it so that the nut's free to remove. Now with those components removed, the center clutch nut, you can actually grab the inside of the clutch and lift, and this will bring the center clutch out, just like that. Now when you pull this out, you want to make sure there's always what we call a thrust washer in between the center clutch and the basket. It's still in place here in the basket. We want to make sure we reuse that. It's very common for it to stick on the back of this OEM center clutch, and if it's not in there, it can lead to all kinds of problems. So make sure that this is still in place. Okay, now that we got the center clutch out, we're going to remove and separate the steel and friction plates. So this is a friction, and then this is a steel. At this step, you want to make sure that you take a look at the friction material, make sure it's still in usable condition. In this case, Larry's bike, the friction plates are new. They already got oil on them, so we're going to go ahead and reuse the OEM friction plates. So we're going to set them up here on the seat, so I'm just going to go ahead and separate these so we can reuse them. Now we've got our frictions and our steels separated. We're going to go ahead and move the center clutch. This is the OEM center clutch. We're not going to reuse this. We'll install the Rekluse pieces from now on. So we're going to set this aside. Now with the OEM center clutch removed, we're going to go ahead and install the Rekluse center clutch. Once again, making sure that this washer is in place. This is the OEM one behind the OEM center clutch. It is still there. I'm going to go ahead and line up the splines, and she will fall into place. Sometimes you got to spin her around a little bit till you get her located. It's like, there we go, and she dropped into place. Now we're going to install the lock tab washer and center clutch nut. Pop that down. And we're going to go ahead and tighten it down finger tight for now, nice and snug. The next step from after putting the center clutch nut on is going to be torquing that center clutch nut. The torque is 50 foot-pounds. There's a couple ways of achieving this. One is using a clutch holding tool. Rekluse will be offering a clutch holding tool that looks something similar to this. And basically this piece will go ahead and slip down between the basket and the center clutch, and basically locking it so that we can now torque the center clutch nut. You can also use Motion Pro. There's a couple clamp-on clutch holding tools that'll work for this. The other last case scenario, I know you want to go out and go riding this weekend, but an impact gun, really don't recommend it. If you have to use an impact gun, extremely light on the torque. It's only 50 foot-pounds, and that's really not that much. If you over-tighten that center clutch nut, you're going to have issues with clutch performance and possibly damaging that main shaft or bearings. So beware. Now with the center clutch nut torque set, we're going to bend the tab washers up. There's one on each side. Using channel lock pliers, basically just going to grab the back side of the nut and the front side with the tab and just squeeze it up into place, nice and flat against the center clutch nut. We'll do both on both sides. So here we have the Rekluse EXP. This is where the auto function actually happens. This is where the magic is made right here in this unit. Be real quick, before we do the clutch pack, I want to dip this thing in oil. Before I do that, I want to go over it with you a little bit. On the inside, there's a wedge system that basically ramps out when the bike, the RPM spins up and the CXP spins in the clutch system. That's what engages the clutch system. There's on both sides, there is 3 springs, and they come from Rekluse, set up for an average idle. If you have an idle that runs higher or lower, you can look at the tuning chart that comes in the kit and change those out. If you need to change them, which in most cases most people do not need to change them, you just pop that spring and it's just a 1/4 turn pin. What I recommend is you just put it in how it comes out of the box, and if you have any questions, refer to your manual or call Rekluse and ask the question. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the oil, then we're going to go put the clutch pack in. Now we're going to install the clutch pack. On 450 models like this YZ450, we're going to start with a steel drive plate. On the 450 models, we use a thinner drive plate, so just make sure to refer to your Rekluse manual. The 250F models, smaller bore bikes don't use the smaller plate, this uses the same size through the clutch pack. So we're going to start with that thin one. Now that we have our Rekluse steels, we have 7 thick ones. We have our thin plate in already. We're going to grab our OEM friction plates, and we're going to go now steel, friction, steel, friction, steel, friction. We're going to end with a steel. We're going to reuse all but one of the OEM plates. We're taking one friction plate out because the EXP, or the expanding disc of the auto system, counts as a friction. And to point out, Rekluse steel drive plates are laser cut. Normal OEM friction plates are stamped that have an in and an out. These plates are identical. Both sides are the same, so there's not an up or a down. All plates will slide in the same way, whether they're up or down. It doesn't make a difference. All right, now we're going to install the stock throw out. So grab the throw out. Go ahead and place it over the main shaft, over that ball bearing. Slip it into place. Now we're going to grab our EXP disc that's soaking in oil. Go ahead and grab this guy. You can use rubber gloves if you want to. I'm just going to kind of let it drip dry here. So it's good enough so we're not going to make a mess. We're going to take the EXP, we're going to go ahead and set it down on top of the clutch pack There is not a top or a bottom. They're both the same. It's either way works. We're going to go ahead and set it down just like that. Next we're going to install the pressure plate and lining plate. The lining plate sits there on the pressure plate, locates in this area. Let's go ahead and set it down just like that. Then we'll go ahead and hold that together. We're going to go ahead and set it onto our clutch pack. Next we're going to install the Rekluse springs. You'll notice on the Rekluse springs we include a sleeve to basically locate this pressure plate bolt into the spring, which is not usual to OEM clutches that use a washer and bolt style. This will actually locate the spring so that when it's compressed you're not getting any extra rubbage on the pressure plate, and also that the spring is located at the correct height. Now we're going to tighten the pressure plate bolts. It's a 5mm Allen, and we're going to go ahead and tighten these down nice and snug in a star pattern. When we get them tight, we will torque to 9 foot-pounds. Take our 4mm Allen, make sure that this center adjuster, that these are loose and that it spins nice and free. These should be backed out. Now we're going to find what's called our starting point on making our adjustment for the auto clutch. Now taking a 5mm, we're going to go ahead and spin it in and see how it's nice and free. We're going to go down until it makes contact with the center clutch nut, which is basically going to feel like some stiff resistance. If you want to, you can. There's a reference on this pressure plate adjuster itself, along with marks around the pressure plate. Those are there for no more than reference. So you just go ahead and go down and just watch where your adjustment gets tight, which is called the starting point. Now when we find our starting point, we want to go ahead and go up to the clutch lever and make sure that we have some clutch slack. So I'm going to check my slack right now. Now with our starting place found, we checked our lever, we have slack. We're going to go ahead and set this. We recommend setting it to 1 full turn. So our mark is 1 mark past 2, and you see it's lined up here on the center dial adjuster. From this point, we're going to go 1 full turn plus 2 marks. So we're going to continue to tighten, and we want to make sure we reference that spot. So we're going back to that spot, that's 1 full turn. And beware, the clutch will turn, so if you have the bike in gear, it will keep it from spinning. So that's 1 full turn. We're back at our mark, 1 mark past 2. From that point, we're going to continue 2 more notches. So there's 1, 2, and that's it. So that's as far as our adjustment. Now we're going to lock down our lock tab, our 2 set screws. That's a 4mm. And we're going to go ahead and tighten them down until they're about flush, which is going to be a snug torque. The correct torque is 40 inch-pounds. You want to make sure to not over torque these. They are a tapered screw, so the farther they go into them, the tighter they get. I like to work back and forth just to make sure I get them nice and even. Last to go on is the billet Rekluse clutch cover. We reuse the OEM gasket in most cases. Some of them do come with a gasket. So we fitted our OEM Yamaha gasket into our cover. Go ahead and place it down over the clutch. While we're at this point, I do want to point one thing out. The EXP, you'll notice, sticks just a little bit outside the basket. That's 100% normal. Some bikes sticks out a little bit more, but nothing to worry about. That's why we supply the Rekluse cover. It's actually got a little more depth to it to allow for that clearance. Now we're going to install the OEM clutch cover bolts. I'm going to tighten these down, and we'll tighten to OEM torque on these clutch cover bolts. On some models, we're going to place a brake spacer in between the frame and the brake pedal. The Yamaha is one of those models, so we're going to go ahead and fit this spacer just to give us a little more clearance on the clutch cover. So we'll go ahead and pop it into place just like that. Throw in our bolt, and then position our brake pedal. Now, I like to get it started and then go ahead and place the spring while it's a little bit loose, makes it a little bit easier. Once again, we'll use OEM torque on this brake pedal bolt. Once the piece is torqued, remember to add our clip on the back of that brake pedal. Now with the clutch system installed, we're going to come up here to the lever and we're going to make sure that we reset our slack to however you like it. We'll put a bunch into it, make sure our adjustment was good down below. So go ahead and tighten up here a little bit and bring it into where I like it, or hopefully where Larry likes it. Just a little bit of play, however you like it, stock setting. This is all going to be just like stock. Now with the lever, regular free play set, there's an extra aspect added to the lever that comes with the Rekluse clutch system. What that is free play gain. Free play gain is basically going to let us know that our clutch system is set correctly, and then we're not going to have any issues on the trail as far as slip or drag goes. So what's going to happen is I'm going to fire this bike up here in a second, and once I fire the bike up, holding the lever and holding through the slack of the cable and then revving the bike, the lever should move about 1/8 of an inch. So that's what we're going to be checking for. If it's not moving or it's moving too much, more than that, you want to go back in there, redo your adjustment, just make sure that we're in a good spot. One thing I do want to point out is that it's a little bit tough to feel initially, so we do include a rubber band in the system so that you can remove your hand from the equation. I'm going to show you with my hand. If you can't feel it that way, refer to the manual. It's in the manual on how to use the rubber band, and we'll let you know your free play gain is set correctly.
Okay, we've got the Rekluse clutch installed. Austin ran through the how-to and step-by-step, showed you how easy it really is to install a Rekluse clutch. Austin, I want to thank you for being with us today. And
absolutely, man. Thanks for having us here.
It was definitely an eye-opener to see how simple it is to install the Rekluse clutch. If there's anything else that you want to add?
Yeah, one last thing I just want to point out to anybody that's doing this at home with the install. There is some tuning once you go out and ride the bike as far as engine braking and all that stuff. That's all tuning if you feel like the bike's freewheeling. The bike should maintain engine braking. It's all that EXP setting with the RPM. And the last thing is just make sure you watch your free play gain, and she'll be good. You'll have no problems. You should get lots of life out of it and lots of smiles.
That's right. That's right. You'll enjoy it. The feel of it is amazing. You just try it, put it in, try it, and it's going to be great. Don't forget, there are 3 ways that you can order here at Chaparral. You can call our 800 number, which is 800-841-2960. Go to our website, chapmoto.com, or just come on into our store and you'll be able to order whatever you need.